Night of the Grave Digging, Part 1. 9:30 p.m. Not a soul in sight. Leaning against the ancient banyan tree by the dark village road, Kwong felt like his insides were on fire with anxiety. Time had never crawled so slowly. His face tense with anticipation, he nervously fumbled out a crumpled pack of cigarettes, pulled one out, and stuck it between his lips. As he flicked his lighter, his flushed face glowed briefly in the flame, next to a half-finished bottle of liquor resting by his side. He took long, continuous drags, exhaling smoke with deep, weary sighs. The wind howled in sharp gusts, while jagged flashes of lightning tore through the pitch-black sky. "A storm's coming." "Even better," he muttered. After tonight, everything would change. He would finally have the money to pay off the gambling debts his father racked up, and maybe even fix their collapsing house. But more importantly, he'd have enough to propose to Lon, the most beautiful girl in the village, the girl he'd loved for years. He had visited her house many times and expressed his desire to marry her, but her parents always looked down on him. They often made snide remarks right in front of him. A girl should marry someone who's financially secure. Otherwise, she'll live in misery. Don't be blind and marry someone jobless and dirt poor, just for love. What would you live on? And when reality hits, the fights and regrets come. It'll be too late, my dear. Her mother, Mrs. Hugh, had said something that haunted him still. "We only have one daughter. We've raised her into a fine young woman after more than 20 years. We don't want her to suffer. If you had a stable job and came from a decent family, we wouldn't stop you. We know you genuinely care for Lon. But, well, think about your own circumstances. You're 30. What do you really have?" At first, her words stung his pride, but deep down, he knew she wasn't wrong. Born into hardship, his mother died early, and his father drowned his sorrow in booze and gambling. What seemed like a temporary escape became a deepening addiction. They had little to begin with, and now even less. Every penny Kwong earned went into paying his father's debts. Meanwhile, his friends had steady jobs, savings, and families, while his own life was still adrift, with no end to the struggle in sight. He glanced over at Lon, noticing how she kept her head down, clearly feeling awkward and torn. Kwong turned to Mrs. Hugh and said firmly, "I promise, by the end of this year, I'll have a stable job and a place of my own. I'll make enough to take care of Lon. Please believe in me." But Mrs. Hugh cut him off, raising her voice. "Enough. You always say, 'I will do this, I will do that,' but when will that actually happen? Those with money don't need to promise anything, people just believe them. It's only the ones with nothing who keep making empty promises." She stood up and walked into her room. "From now on, please leave my daughter alone. Go find someone whose circumstances match yours. Stop dreaming, wooden chopsticks don't belong in a golden feast. Please, go home." Even though Lon loved Kwong, she was slowly swayed by her mother's words. Watching her friends marry into wealth, living comfortably, dressed nicely, while those who married poor men looked worn down, selling in the markets just to survive, it made her think. Happiness never lasts when you're poor. Remember that. That was her mother's advice. Lon started hesitating. Part of her wanted to end things, part of her wanted to give Kwong a bit more time. But if he couldn't turn his life around soon, she would marry Tang, the son of the commune's deputy chairman, chosen by her parents. Tang had long fancied her too. Though he wasn't much to look at, maybe love could grow later in marriage. That night, walking Kwong out to the road, she hesitated. "You should focus on your job. We shouldn't see each other too much anymore." Sensing her cold tone, Kwong grabbed her hand tightly, nearly snapping. "What's this attitude? You promised me, didn't you? You said you'd marry me no matter how hard life got." She pulled her hand away, voice trembling with pain and frustration. "I did. But we also need to be realistic. I've waited 3 years for you to get your life together. But tell me, how much longer? How long?" Kwong lowered his head, at a loss for words. Tears welled in Lan's eyes. Your house is falling apart. Your father gambles, drinks, yells, and wrecks things. I care about you, but don't you think about my future too? Her words hit him hard. He spoke softly, trying to comfort her. I will have money. Just wait a little longer. We'll move to the district town and start a new life. I promise. She said nothing, quietly walking back inside, torn between love and fear for her future. He called after her. I hope you keep your promise too. We'll be married soon. From that day on, Kwong worked hard, odd jobs, manual labor, anything to earn. But every time he saved something, another emergency popped up. A few months back, he finally scraped together 15 million dong from masonry work, a decent sum for him. But his father fell gravely ill and was hospitalized with liver failure from years of drinking. 2 months in the hospital wiped out everything. Kwong had to quit work to care for him. With one problem after another, he often cursed the heavens for his fate. Other people had family to fall back on, even if not rich, at least emotionally supportive. He had nothing but debts and burdens. After his father was discharged, Kwong voiced his frustrations. Mr. Lam, recognizing his failures, said, I know you've been through a lot. I'll try to quit drinking and gambling so you can focus on your life. But, Kwong snapped. But what? I don't need you to make money. Just stay home and don't embarrass me in front of Lan's family. Is that too much? Mr. Lam raised his hands, regretful. I will quit. I swear. But right now, I still owe someone 20 million. I need your help, just this once. 20 million? Are you insane? Do you even know how much that is? Kwong exploded. His father looked down, mumbling. I know I messed up. I should have been your support, but I failed. I just wanted to fix the house, make it presentable, for you, for your future. Placing a hand on his son's shoulder, Mr. Lam sighed. I know they look down on us because we're poor. That's why I felt so useless. I gambled, hoping to win something for you. But it only made things worse. Kwong sighed and looked at his father, slightly more empathetic. Fine. I'll help you this one last time. After that, just let me live my life. I'm exhausted. Thanks to his perseverance and a bit of luck, Kwong got into the local funeral crew. The pay wasn't great, but it was stable and easier work. Still, saving up would take time, and he wondered if Lan would wait that long. A few days ago, he worked at the funeral of Mr. Hai, a wealthy lumber mill owner in the village. While placing the body in the coffin, Kwong noticed something odd, a massive gold ring on Mr. Hai's left middle finger, and a thick gold chain, probably worth over 100 million dong. Whether it was his dying wish, or the family's decision to leave his beloved jewelry on him, no one dared remove it, perhaps fearing his soul wouldn't rest. But Kwong didn't care about the reason. All he saw was an opportunity. Money, that's all that mattered now. Money could change everything. With money, no one would dare look down on him again. Working for others would never make him rich. To start a business, he needed capital. And so, he made up his mind. A wild plan, he would dig up Mr. Hai's grave and steal the gold. Tonight was the best chance. He needed the money soon, too many things were waiting for it. He planned carefully. After taking the gold, he wouldn't use it right away. Too risky. Instead, he'd leave for the district town, act like he was starting over. Then he'd sell the gold and use the money to open a cafe, and bring Lan there to live. She wouldn't have to worry anymore, their future would be brighter. Ghosts and spirits didn't bother Kwong. He'd never seen one. When you're dead, that's it, he always thought. What really scared him wasn't the dead, but getting caught. That could mean beatings from the family, or years in prison. So he had to be careful. No one could know. Kwong, why are you sitting here? Lost in thought, Kwong jolted. Eyes wide, he looked up to see Trong, flashlight in hand. Kwong was annoyed, this was the last person he wanted to see right now. While they both worked in funeral-related jobs, Trong was a cemetery mason, and although they grew up together, Kwong never liked his smug attitude. Reluctantly, Kwong grunted and shook his liquor bottle. Drinking. What does it look like? Trong laughed and plopped down across from him, eyeing the bottle. Drinking? Alone? Out here in the middle of the night, with a storm coming? You think I believe that? Kwong snatched the bottle, snapping. None of your damn business. Easy, man. I was just asking. Got something going on tonight, don't you? From the moment he saw Kwong sitting there, Trong knew something was off. He wasn't sure what yet, but Kwong's behavior, and the burlap sack barely hidden behind the banyan tree, told him enough to start guessing. Seeing that Kwong didn't say anything, Trong cautiously asked, Is there anything I can help with? Work's been slow lately, I haven't made much money. My wife's about to give birth, so I really need the cash. Hearing Trong speak, Kwong pondered for a moment. He considered letting Trong join him. After all, 2 people would get the job done faster. But if he did that, he'd have to split the gold in half, and that was something he would never agree to. Kwong's demeanor softened. He needed to gently find a way to get rid of the guy. Taking a deep drag from his cigarette, he exhaled and said through the smoke, Yeah, but not now. In a few days, if there's anything, I'll call you. That'd be great. Trong's eyes lit up, but he still seemed suspicious. He asked, But what about tonight? You sure you don't need me for something? Must be important, huh? The probing question made Kwong flinch, a little flustered. He let out a laugh to deflect. No. Nothing like that. Just had a rough day, pissed off about a bunch of things, so I came out here to drink a bit. Seeing Trong nod along, Kwong acted concerned. Anyway, your wife's pregnant, could go into labor any time now. Looks like a storm's coming too. You should head home and keep an eye on things. I'll call you in a few days. I've got something big coming up in town, plenty of work for you. All right, don't forget. If you need anything, just holler, I'm totally free these days. Trong smiled, but his eyes kept flicking toward Kwong's burlap sack. Then he stood up. All right then, I'm heading home. Kwong replied. Yeah, I should go too. Storm's rolling in. Watching Trong's bulky figure walk off with his flashlight, Kwong exhaled deeply, muttering a few curses under his breath, though he felt much more at ease. He tilted his head back and chugged the rest of his drink. The liquor quickly coursed through his body, igniting a warm rush that chased away the faint fear creeping in. His head buzzed, slightly euphoric. The large burlap sack sat under the banyan tree. Inside were a shovel, a crowbar, a hammer, some nails, and a flashlight. The small knife was already strapped to his waist. That was all he needed to get the job done. Years of working construction had made him well equipped for this. Ken picked up the sack and stood up. His shadow faded into the vast darkness of the night. The dirt path led to the fields, or as the villagers called it, the road to the graveyard, where Mr. Hai had just been buried a few days earlier. It was a desolate place during the day and even more eerie, desolate, and bone-chilling at night. I have to hurry. I need to finish before dawn. He urged himself forward, picking up the pace as the wind howled against him. His worn-out sneakers brushed through the whispering weeds on either side of the road. Above him, lightning forked through the sky, briefly illuminating scattered tombs ahead in flashes. Suddenly, Kwong froze. There was a sound, like footsteps, echoing from behind. A sense of unease crept over him. It felt like someone was following. He stopped dead in his tracks and spun around. Behind him was only the long, endless dirt road and a few old trees stretching their branches in the wind like hands beckoning him closer. The croaking of frogs echoed from the fields, slow and mournful, unnervingly eerie in the dead of night. Who the hell would be out here at this hour? He muttered, then broke into a jog toward the graveyard. A hazy mist blanketed the hundreds of graves, old and new, scattered and overlapping along the narrow paths. The deeper he went, the colder and gloomier the air became. It wasn't hard to find Mr. High's grave among the dozens surrounding it. Quam himself had helped carry the coffin and watched as they buried the old man. It looked like a mound of earth, surrounded by withered wreaths and sprouting wild grass. He sat down and stared at the portrait of Mr. High printed on the tombstone, still smelling faintly of fresh cement. A man in his 70s, with a broad forehead, wide nose, and thick fat under his chin. But what stood out most was his fierce gaze, eyes that seemed to pierce right through the soul. Under the crackling flashes of lightning, Quam suddenly felt like Mr. High was staring right at him, as if still alive. He quickly stood up, uncomfortable, unable to face that menacing gaze any longer. Graves here were typically 1 meter and 80 centimeters deep, 2 meters and 80 long, and 1 meter 30 wide. Even with his strength and experience, it would take several hours to dig it up, which meant he had to finish by 4 a.m. at the latest. Holding the shovel, he instinctively scanned the graveyard. The wind howled like a wailing spirit crying out in the night. Gritting his teeth, he drove the shovel deep into the earth. But just as he was about to scoop the dirt, he stopped. His instincts flared again. Someone was nearby. This was the second time he'd had that eerie feeling. He couldn't ignore it. He stood still, held his breath, and looked around. Only rows of cold, uneven tombs surrounded him. Narrowing his eyes, he scanned carefully, and then he saw it. A shadow. A dark shape moved behind a nearby grave, watching him. Suddenly, from that direction, came a piercing cry. Meow. Quam exhaled in relief. It was just a stray cat. He picked up a brick and hurled it hard. The cat let out a furious hiss and scampered off. Freaking graveyard cat, he muttered. People feared those big black cats, twice the size of house cats, that scavenged in cemeteries. But to Quam, they were just wild animals, not worth his worry. In the deserted, frigid graveyard, he was the only living soul. His calloused hands worked fast, scooping up shovelfuls of dirt and flinging them aside. The alcohol and the promise of gold buried below drove him harder than ever. It was unclear how many hours passed, but his body was drenched as the rain started to pour heavier. He paused, wiping sweat from his brow, panting with exhaustion. His clothes were caked with mud. His vision blurred. He plopped down, cracking his neck from side to side. Everything around him was still dark, damp, and ghostly. Wind gusted like anguished spirits wailing from deep within the grave. Quam looked up. He was standing at the bottom of a rectangular pit. Then he heard it. A dull clunking sound, like shoes stepping onto wood. His heart began to race. He scrambled to clear away the last layers of dirt, tossing them aside with both hands. Then he stood and looked down, his eyes lit up. The coffin was exposed. Forgetting his fatigue, Quam eagerly cleared the surrounding dirt to make room to stand on solid ground. To be continued.